On the Pfaff Creative 1.5 sewing machine, you can always use a twin needle or a double needle. But before we go putting this on, I need to show you two things that are very important. Number one of the things is for threading, and number two, you got to tell the machine that you're putting on a twin needle, especially if you want to do the decorative stitches. So twin needles are often used for pin tucks, as you see here. They can be used for top stitching, and then of course decorative work, like you see along here, and that's what we're going to do today. So if you go into your settings and then go down and arrow down to where it says twin needle, touch OK to put a little darkened box in that area, and then it says a number. So if you are wanting the most bang for your buck for the decorative stitches, use the narrower twin needle. So 2.0 is the size I'm actually going to put on, but you need to tell the machine that that's the size you're using. So if you arrow to the left, it will go to 2.5 and down to 2. That way, it will actually make sure, for example, if I pick stitch number 4 and I try to make it wider than it will allow me to stitch, it will actually tell me I will max out for that size of twin needle. It's limited. Also, if I turn the machine off and turn it back on, it will remember that the twin needle is still active, making sure I don't break that needle. All right, so here's the next thing. Let's go ahead. I'll put the needle. I'm going to go back to a straight stitch. I always like to try the straight stitch. Oh, needle, not foot. Here we go. And so we're going to loosen that needle. Put the twin needle on, and I always set that limitation first so I don't forget. Don't want to have to buy another twin needle just because I didn't remember to set the limitation. Okay, so once again, tighten that, but not too tight. And next, it'll be about threading. So you do want to either use a thread stand. For today, I just have one of my extra spools sitting right down here with my little vertical spool pin on here, and it's going up and over. So on this machine, we're going to just thread the machine like normal, but you want to really make sure that both threads get all the way down into the tension area. Make sure you give them a good little pull. Maybe hold on to both of them and pull those all the way down into that area. And go ahead and just finish threading it like normal, down underneath or past that first or the last guide next to the needles. Now the only thing with threading a twin needle is you're kind of on your own. Because the needle threader is no longer lined up, because there's two needles, not one, you need to thread these by hand. So a little handheld needle threader if you're having trouble. And then also, it doesn't matter which thread goes in which needle. So just really pick one. And so we'll put one in one and one in the other. Your bobbin is really going to do double duty with these needles, so it'll really look like a zigzag. And while I'm threading here, I'm reminded you can even free motion quilt with a twin needle. Who would have thought? That'll give you a very calligraphy-like look when you stitch. Okay, so the first thing I always do is test it out on a straight stitch. Maybe take your time, make sure everything's threaded right. Everything sounds good. And you get that 2 rows of stitches. You can use your thread snips. That's not a problem with the twin needle. And we can just go ahead and pull it out. So I've got one color that's solid and one color that's variegated. If we just go to stitch number 4 and just again do the default setting of that stitch, we can make it wider, but even some of these utility stitches really look fun with a twin needle. Where's my favorite? 13. That's one of my favorite stitches with the twin needle. It's a gathering stitch. We use that to kind of gather today, but with a twin needle, it has a whole new look. So as we start to, and I'll pick another decorative stitch, see what I'm talking about? You get something totally new and different. And depending on your combination of thread colors, that's also going to give you a whole new world. So if you did 2 solid colors or 2 variegated colors, you could stitch out all your decorative stitches again and have something totally new and exciting. So even if we do like stitch number, nothing too exciting here, even 52, some of those serpentine stitches are kind of fun. No, let's do 53. We'll do one of those. I've stitched some of these out so I know what they kind of look like. The nice thing is I can just go ahead and pick a decorative stitch and not think twice about it, and knowing that I'm not going to forget to limit my stitch and have my needle break. So that is always a nice feature. You know what, I'm going to try 59. That one might be a little heavy, but I want to see what that actually looks like, because these two colors could really come together nicely. Remember I said if you want the most bang for your buck, use the narrower needle, because if you use a wider needle, you don't get as much swing of the needle. The needles are out here, so they're making the stitch really kind of parallel. But the narrower the needle, the more they kind of interact and overlap for totally new stitches. Okay, let's take a look. This was stitch number 59. And now we're talking, we have something totally different. And if you compared to what that looks like with just one needle, you'll see that you've got a whole new look just by putting 2 needles and 2 threads in your machine.